A Lorcana Collector's Market Watch? Let's get into it. All right, I'm super excited to be getting into this first episode of this Collector's Market Watch update. Essentially what I want this to be is I'll just take basically a set, in this case we'll start with Shimmering Skies, and just really give an overview of some things that I'm buying, selling right now on secondary markets, TCG Player, eBay, or at least where potential might be right now. I've been saying for a while now it is a good time to be investing in enchanted rares. If you saw the earlier video that we did where we showed every enchanted rare, go check that video out if you haven't seen it. Basically, a lot of enchanteds hanging out in between like that $50 and $100 price range, which is really good. So we will maybe talk about some of those and then also talk about some maybe higher end ones, maybe some things you should be buying, and then also maybe some things that you should be holding off on right now. But with that, let's get right into it. Okay, so the first card I want to look at here is Mufasa, obviously the big chase card from Shimmering Skies. Want to be able to see if anything's changed on the listings front. I have noticed that there haven't been many listings on Mufasa, especially for TCG Player, but let's go in here and see. I haven't looked at TCG Player in a couple days. eBay, I do tend to try and check day to day just because you do get the pictures from eBay. But looking at Mufasa here, we'll go into more data and we'll see, looks like we have some sales in the past couple days. We have fair amount of sales in September, to be honest with you. Decent amount of buy going on here in the 2nd through the 4th. So it's a pretty liquid card, but at the same time, it kind of seems like that's dried up a little bit. It seems like, I don't know, individuals might be holding on to this card right now, might be able to, see if they can get even more for it. It is a very interesting time with this card because you would think that it's a seller's market right now because the card is trading at such a premium. You would think this would be the time to get as many of those out into the market as possible. But you look down here, we have 5 listings, and realistically, one of them being $5.15, which you're realistically not going to do. It's almost not a real price. I mean, you could just have someone go in and buy them all out, but really, I mean, 4 listings here between $279, $299. So from the TCG Player front, pretty dry, but actually let's go into eBay here and check out what we have going on. All right, popping into eBay here, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I checked yesterday, it was 6. So someone might have purchased one, but obviously you've got a couple here that are meme, basically like, 3,800, 2,500, those are just meme listings, that's not real. So you have 900, if that's a 10, is it a 10? Let's go in here and look, it is a 10, so that works out there. That probably still is trading too much of a premium, but at the same time, it is the only one in the market. So, I mean, it is fair. And then at the same time, you have 200, 150, looks like those are auctions. So yeah, I mean, really not much of a market when it comes to looking at eBay at time of today's recording. But actually, interestingly enough, let's go in here and let's go in and look and see what's been getting sold on that side of things right now. Let's pop in, let's go to sold items and see what's going on and see how liquid it's been on that side of things. 52, so not bad. So let's see, August 12th, August 30th, a lot of August. What do we have in September? There's some September. Honestly, pretty dry on that side of things also. So really it just kind of seems like a lot of individuals just seem to be holding onto this card. Fair pricing, I mean, everything kind of trading within that like 215 to 235 range. I mean, like 215, 220s, 230, 237, 240, 245. All right, so we got up and touched 250. There's 250, 265. So it looks like we have gotten maybe 1 or 2. Ooh, a 290. But I will say on the 290 side of things, you do want to kind of look for outliers. Like if you ever in math, learned about mean, median, range, things like that. You want to get rid of that outlier data. It's basically garbage, junk data, right? So the 290, hey, props to that person. You went and got your card. Congratulations to you. But also, again, here also on the 300 side of things, that seems a little bit high. But it looks like, oh, actually, no, you have August 12th, so you kind of have FOMO there. September 9th, you do not have FOMO right there, though. This one right here, that is not FOMO. That's the card is pretty priced in here. So I would say that one is probably a little bit more of an outlier than the one from about a month ago. All right, continuing on, what else can we find to talk about? Oh, this is perfect. Okay, so we have Clarabelle. This is actually even more perfect. We have Clarabelle, Naveen. You know what? Actually, I'll go ahead and say this entire row: Diablo, Robin Hood, Clarabelle, Naveen, all of them. So these are basically like your meta enchanteds, right? These are the ones that if there's ever an enchanted out there that you probably want to be somewhat cautious on. I've talked about it with the Diablo before. I probably talked about it a little bit with the Robin Hood, and obviously now that Shimmering Skies is our current set, we have Clarabelle, we have Naveen. I'll probably just kind of throw them into the mix. If there's ever a specific enchanted that you probably want to be kind of halted on, it's one of these, just because there's a specific critical event that will tell you that once this thing happens, the price will go down, right? So for example, here, like we see Clarabelle, like let's see what we have here for more data. We have 150. I mean, it's basically trading around that 150 mark. I mean, obviously, once again, like you have this, you have this one right here, 170, 180, 179, 179. Again, probably a little bit high, a little bit of an outlier, sold on September 2nd. So the FOMO has been priced in. So you probably want to be, throw that data out as a little, like we talked about, like a little bit of that like junky data. And you can do that on the underneath as well. It's just that more times than not, cards don't get sold for drastically less than what they should go for, right? Like nobody's probably going to list them for that. So usually your junk data comes from cards being sold for a little bit too much. But overall, with the Clarabelle, the Naveen, the Robin Hood, the Diablo, all those, I know we're kind of keeping it to Shimmering Skies for this episode, but what I will say with these specific cards is that, again, once that specific critical event happens where you have, where the meta sort of shifts, sort of pushes out, boxes out, the Clarabelles, the Naveens, things like that, that's where you could go in and see them starting to trade a little bit more in the, in the like $80 to $100 range, like I'm sure what we're gonna see here on this side of things with, with some of these other cards, like right here, once again, like, so it kind of shifts perfectly into the next section that we'll talk about here. You could like on a Sisu, which I won't lie, like that is actually a played like meta card. Like I will say this is probably where we're starting to see things like kind of borderline where anything under this, you start getting like Scrooge, Chernabog, Peter Pan, things like that, like Olaf. Here's another one. Obviously, we talked about this before. I purchased it. It was a FOMO purchase, so don't do that. Don't follow me. Don't do what I did there. I was just super excited. It was Shimmering Skies Day, and I had to have this card. But at the same time, you look at a card like this. Once again, very nice IP with being frozen, and at the same time, beautiful artwork. Very iconic character. All of these things. And you ask yourself, like, why is a Naveen, which again, wonderful character, wonderful IP, all of those things, but like, why is Naveen and Clarabelle and these cards so much higher than this Olaf? And it truly, that's basically like your meta, like critical event delta, if you will, like that's your difference, right? Now that doesn't mean that the Clarabelle and the Naveen and things like that doesn't guarantee that you're gonna start seeing listings of like $80, $85, things like that. It's very possible that like once they're out of the meta and the meta shifts away from them and like moves on from these cards, it's very possible that you could see them hanging out like around 100, 110, but even that, like for a lot of investors, like a lot of collectors like us, it's a very serious delta and a serious dip that you want to be able to say like, okay, I'm going to wait on that. Obviously being like 150 right now, probably a little too much, where like you do have a chance to come down to something like a $79, $89, something like that. So I would say just wait on those. And that kind of brought me into like the last part of it, which I wanted to talk about today, which was basically anything you see here hanging out like under, we'll just use the Sisu here. This was actually, I wasn't planning on this, but like we'll actually use the Sisu here. I didn't even realize that we do have a meta relevant enchanted that's under $100. That's not a bad deal. Also the Kita, like, this is where I get away from the meta a little bit. Like I don't know, like I'm not as tapped into the meta as some of you out there are, which is awesome. And I appreciate you letting me know on those things. The Kita, I believe, is still played in Amber decks. I believe there's a specific package for her. So like we can call it the Kita. Like underneath the Kita, I'm not seeing anything that I would have otherwise seen on like other, videos of like deck building videos, things like that sometimes I do come across. So really any enchanted that you see underneath, we'll call it like that Kita line, anything that you see here is probably going to be a good opportunity to get in there and buy. And that's just because of the fact that once again, now you're playing with specific ratios of cards. Again, this Hercules, this Beast, are, obviously we have my wife's card right here, the Donald Duck Pieslinger. Like these are all cards that once again, obviously the ratios, they change set to set. It looks like you can pull 2 out of Shimmering Skies now from an enchanted standpoint, whereas with others you can only pull 1 or things like that, but whatever. Regardless, it's a very, very small percentage chance of pulling these cards. And you see these cards hanging out here in like this $50, $60 range, right? Like even the Sisu, like Water Dragon, this is another, this is another one where it's like, this was pulled, again, we pulled this one, which is awesome. But this one is Rise of the Floodborn, where again, we know that like this is still where they were doing things from probably a 1-to-1 case ratio perspective, so a 1 in 96 perspective. And this card's hanging out here at $62, right? For like a low near mint, right? And again, you kind of see the price reflect that, right? You see a 3-month, you see a 6-month where you have this like serious FOMO right here, and then it comes all the way back down, right? Like it's a healthy dip. It's a healthy entry point for you to be able to get in and buy it, right? So like what I would say is if you are looking to buy, I would keep my eye on these like sub 80 enchanteds, things like that. And then for those other like meta relevant ones, like, you know, the 150, you know, the Clarabelle, the Naveen, you know, the ones like that, those would be the ones I would wait on. And then really for the Mufasa, right, those like chase cards in the set, I did it with Cinderella, right? So I'm gonna at least gonna like call it out, right? If you have a card that you feel like you absolutely have to get and you don't know that there's an end in sight, go grab it, right? Like the end in sight with Clarabelle and Naveen, that will probably happen from the perspective of, again, the meta. But with respect to like Mufasa, which is a little bit meta relevant, but realistically like feels like it has that like chase card vibe about it. If you want to go get it now, pay the premium, go get it, no worries at all. All right, y'all, I had a ton of fun doing this. It's awesome just to be able to get to like take what I do from a day-to-day basis, like away from the studio, like out here, like when I'm just living my day-to-day life and like my actual collecting life and my actual collecting journey, just being able to like kind of share it with you all and be able to give my perspective. And let me know in the comment section what you think about the specific cards from a Shimmering Skies perspective, which ones you're looking to pick up right now. I'm super interested in that because that also might be something that I might look to do to say, okay, maybe I'll go pick that up for myself. Maybe I'll wait on this, etc. But until that time, let's go over to the studio and we'll close things out. All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's content, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, let us know in the comment section what you thought about today's video. If you enjoyed the Market Watch video, if you wanna see more videos with the vlog camera, outside of the studio, in and out of the studio, let us know. We wanna interact with you and we wanna be able to bring you great content. And until that time, we are eternally grateful for you all. We will see you on the other side. Peace out.